Welcome to my home. I'm Señor Rafael Gesa de Amezcua. Won't you come in? I have lived in this house and in these gardens for all of my life. My family came from Spain to live in Mexico about 300 years ago. We have been here a long time. Still, it is not an easy country to understand, this Mexico. Let's go inside. My great-grandfather, Don Francisco Gorribar, built this house. He owned land and mines. In Mexico, there are very few houses like this one because there were not many great-grandfathers like Don Francisco. I think I'm getting old now. I like to sit here with my pictures and my books. That one is by a friend of mine, one of the most famous artists of Mexico. It gives me much pleasure to look at. I like to sit here in this room and read our history and have around me the things of the past. For in Mexico, the past is so much a part of the present. To understand Mexico even a little, you must know something about the beginning, about the history, about the people who live here now on this land, which is like no other in the world. How do I tell you about this country of a million faces, this Mexico of so many mountains, of sun-baked deserts and cool forests, of sweltering swamps and breezy, rocky seacoasts? We say in Spanish, aquí hay un poco de todo. Here there is a little of everything which nature has to offer. On the map, this is how Mexico is. Bounded by the United States, the Pacific Ocean, the Gulf of Mexico, and by Guatemala and British Honduras. A country about 1/4 the size of the United States. Two mountain ranges, the Sierra Madre Oriental and the Sierra Madre Occidental, form the walls of the high central plateau, which covers about 1/3 of the country. Most of the people live on the central plateau, and most of the cities are here. The high mountains meet in the center, near Mexico City, and then drop down to the isthmus of Tehuantepec. The peninsula of Yucatan is low and flat, as is also the peninsula of Baja California, which is mostly desert. The mountains make transportation and communication very difficult, and many parts of the Republic are cut off from the rest of the country. In the north, the land is mostly desert, parched and water-hungry. For this reason, not many people live here. The lack of rainfall in most of Mexico makes farming very difficult or impossible. Even on the central plateau, which is the chief agricultural region, there is barely enough rain. Along the narrow tropical lowlands by the sea, there is an overabundance of rain. It's very warm here throughout the year. The temperature becomes cooler as the land rises. At Mexico City, which is nearly 8,000 feet above sea level, the average temperature in the winter is about 54 degrees, and in the summer, a cool 62. There are many rivers which flow down from the mountains, but almost none are good for transportation. Many have water in them only during the rainy season, which is usually in the summer. Now I must tell you about the people and the great problems made for them by this land they live on. Long before Columbus discovered America and Cortez conquered Mexico for Spain, a rich Indian civilization was here. They made figures like these. They were craftsmen and artists and great builders, building enormous pyramids to their gods, marvels of engineering knowledge and skill. The ruins of their cities are still here, splendid cities that thrived before Europe even knew that there was a new world. We think that about 20 million Indians were living in Mexico when the Spanish conquerors came in the year 1521. Today, maybe 2 million Tzotzils, Aztecs, Zapotecs, Chamulas, and other tribes live in their mountain villages. They still speak their own languages, and many do not even know Spanish, the language of Mexico. The Indian and the Spanish conquerors married, and soon a new race began to grow, the mestizo. Most of the 35 million people of Mexico now are of this mixed Spanish and Indian blood, called just Mexicans. Many towns stand today almost exactly as they were during the nearly 400 years of Spanish rule. Towns like San Miguel Allende, Tasco, Guanajuato, with their Spanish architecture. But Spain brought much more than architecture to Mexico. She brought the feudal Spain of the 16th century, the Spain of a few lords and many serfs. She brought the Catholic religion, the religion of Mexico today. She forced the Indians to destroy their old gods in favor of a new one, the God of Christianity, whom they accepted very quickly. From the earth of Mexico, immense amounts of silver and gold flowed back to Spain. Besides mineral wealth, the valuable hides and cheap labor of the people enriched not only the Spanish crown, but families like mine as well. For nearly 400 years, Mexico lay still under the Spanish yoke. She did not grow. She did not change. Under a feudal system of life, long outmoded in other countries. The Spanish did not wish to change, and the Indian did not know how to. Now, more than 150 years since Mexico gained her independence from Spain, the country is still poor. Over 60% of the people work on the land, raising cattle, plowing the earth in the same primitive way they have plowed it for hundreds of years. But the land is not really good land for farming. There is not enough rain, or there is too much. There are too many mountains and deserts which will produce nothing, and life is very hard. On the 30% of the land which is even a little good for agriculture, the people harvest wheat. The maguey plant produces a liquid used to make different drinks. Along the tropical seacoast, there are coconuts, and the people fish. Sugarcane is usually harvested on lands the people of the village own in common. We call this the ejido or ejido system. A great portion of the farmland is operated under this system. Corn is the most important food for the people of Mexico. It covers more acreage than all of the other crops combined. Wherever the land will grow anything, there is corn, which in Mexico is called maíz. Like most campesinos or farmers, Juan Alvarez grows corn on his own little plot of land by his house, and the rest of the time he works on the ejido, or village lands. From the corn, Señora Alvarez makes tortillas, which are the main food for most Mexicans. The corn is first soaked in water. Then it is ground between stones until it is like dough. All over Mexico, you can hear the patting, patting sound of tortillas being made and smell them toasting over the fire. For the campesino and his family, there are no luxuries, barely the necessities. There is only hard work and the struggle to have enough food to keep alive. But there is another Mexico, of fine homes and luxury, and people who have more than enough. Once there were only the very rich and the very poor, but now the people of the cities who work in shops, offices, and factories make up the rapidly growing middle class, which a country must have if it is to develop. Mexico City is totally unlike the rest of the country. 150 years ago, it was the largest city in the whole Western Hemisphere. Today, with a population of close to 4 million people, it's one of the world's great capitals and centers of commerce. A city of well-tended parks, of fine theaters and art. A city with the oldest university in North America, housed in some of the world's most modern buildings. For over 3 centuries, the University of Mexico has been a center of culture and learning. Cities like Guadalajara and others are growing as people move from the country. 20 years ago, only a small percentage of the people lived in urban centers. Now almost half are part of the city's rising middle class. Mexico knows it must industrialize quickly if it is to provide a better life for more of the people. New factories are being built all the time as the country produces more and more of the things a modern society needs. From the port city of Veracruz on the Gulf of Mexico, we ship out sugar and cotton to other countries. And we get back the machinery with which to build our industry and make at home the manufactured goods which now must be imported. There are great natural resources here. Mexico is one of the richest mineral countries in the world, and mining is the most highly developed and well-organized national industry. Mexico leads the world in the production of silver and is ninth in the production of gold. There are great reserves of base metals, lead, zinc, and copper, as well as iron. There is plenty of oil to pump from the ground. Water also can be taken from underground to irrigate the dry lands and make them bloom with rice and fruit. Gradually, agricultural methods are changing. Under irrigation, lands once parched and barren can be made to yield abundantly. With the growing use of modern farm machinery and methods, it is possible now to produce much more food with far less labor. There are more schools in the villages, where before there were none. And the problem of teaching all of the people of a nation to read and write is slowly being solved. Roads are being cut through the mountains to communities once isolated from the world for want of a way to reach them. Modern buses carry people who not long ago had only burros to ride. With the construction of the railways in the 1880s, the industrialization of Mexico began, slowly gaining momentum until today Mexico is growing industrially at a more rapid rate than any other country of the Americas. Through the airport at Mexico City, thousands of tourists come to enjoy this most beautiful country, with its days filled with warmth and sunshine. Acapulco on the Pacific coast has become one of the most famous resorts in the world. Tourism is one of the chief industries and very important because Mexico needs the money from abroad which the visitors bring in. There are many Mexicos. At one extreme, there is this Acapulco with its beauty and luxury. At the other, there is the Mexico in which life has changed little in hundreds of years. The Mexico of sparse existence for over half the people. This Mexico is our problem. But as you have seen, we are working to solve it. I hope that in my small way, I've helped you understand Mexico. Won't you come back?